Hello again. Thanks for joining me, Simmer Row, for part 2 of my Create a World tutorial series that demonstrates how to use procedural generating fractal terrain generators. And as you can see here, I'm in World Machine, and we have a default sort of layout for kind of demonstrational purposes. Maybe for convenience we could keep what's here, but at first glance it's kind of like, what does all this mean? So these boxes here are explaining what's up with the color coding behind these different nodes. Why are they different colors? What do they do? And I'm going to get to all that. We're going to edit these, but before I do, I want to talk about our file. We're going to get our project set up in the proper resolution and format from the get-go. So this +1, for example, is not needed. It's maybe more important for programs like Unity, where we're mapping a mesh. And Create a World handles that on its own. We don't need the +1. It doesn't need to make sense to you. I don't totally understand it myself, but it's not necessary with Create a World. So 2048, that's the resolution we want to be at, and 8 kilometers width and height. That means that World Machine is going to treat the scale of the erosion, the type of map. It's going to treat it as if it's 8 kilometers, even though in actual space it's closer to 1 kilometer. And we could set it to 1 kilometer, but in the real world, 1 kilometer is so huge every hill would be enormous. So, and I believe there's a sort of warping or a distortion in the Sims universe, so space seems to be a certain distance away. It really does look like 8 kilometers maybe to your eye, but it's actually not. It's physically 1 kilometer. So, okay, I'm going to stop rambling about that, and let's see. Okay, so let's make sure we got that all set up. Yeah, that's all we need. So, that again was up here in World Extents and Resolution. Now, these nodes, if you observe, we've got a generator. Now that's what the green is. And generators basically generate our terrain. They are our clay, if you will. If you imagine that it is that the terrain is clay that we are sculpting, the green is like the clay. It's what we're molding. And the blue is like the tools. If you look up in the corner, you see what's happening to this lump of clay. After we apply the blue, you can see this terrace effect happening. Now this height output, that's just a file. We could set that up as a PNG or another image type format. We don't really need this one right now, but we could do a bitmap, mesh output, a height output for, say, a height map, or another type of flowchart. And you'll see what I mean when we get to that point. But for now, let's work with the green and the blue nodes. Let's get rid of these background boxes. We don't need them. Now, it gets really nifty. You go into 3D view and you can kind of see. And if I click on this, here, I think it shows you, yeah. It'll show you the more recent, what the stages of the nodes we have. So as we get more nodes, you can just click along the timeline and see each thing you've done. which is pretty nifty. And it is not built. When you build it, it actually brings it up to higher resolution. So you can work in a sort of functional viewing resolution, so it doesn't have, it can do huge calculations. You can work with huge terrains and your computer won't run slowly, but then you can build it and really see what the final result is. So let's look at this. It's going to be sharp and hideous, but let's see what we're working with. Wow, that's kind of cool, but definitely a little bit unrealistic, but already you can see it's just very organic. You've got so much to work with here, so this is exciting. Now, you're thinking, this is just a little cube. What if I don't want this cube? What do I do? Okay. Well, not only could you come over to generator, you could import a different file to work with entirely. You could have an existing height map. You could do Voronoi. These are different radial grad. These are different base shapes. Like advanced Perlin is sort of a, well, it generates a fractal type peaks off of a random seed. And Perlin noise adds noise, just like say Photoshop. It'll add dots all over your map of different sizes and blur based on kind of what you want to have your settings at. And the layout, we're going to maybe use one of those. So I'm just going to stick it in there. Layout allows you to actually add in shapes and stuff. So you go, I want a mountain over here, or I want a circular lake over here. And it allows you to cut and add to the terrain. But there's something really special about this advanced Perlin. When you generate an advanced Perlin map, and you go to layout, you can see this infinite world that is created. And if you don't want to use create a layout, totally create your world's base shapes out of triangles and hills and stuff, you can sort of pick. You can move your extents. Need to be an overview. So I can tweak with my layout generator on? I don't know. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me yet, but it's okay. I could definitely navigate this program. We're gonna be okay. So this area now is, going to be measured by World Machine, treated, shaped as if it is 8 kilometers, and it's 2,048 pixels across. And I think in Create a World, 1 pixel is about a square foot. So that's just kind of measurements we're thinking of with our, trying to visualize with our brains. It's confusing, but now we can move our extents. That's what I was getting at. Yeah, so you can see we can pick something else. We can have this little bowl. Yeah, I kind of like that. This one fits a little bit. And I can change the size, actually. You know why I can do that? Because it will always be eroding it as if it's 8 kilometers. It will be treating it that way. It will still be 2,048 pixels, I believe. Because that is what we have our final set to. So I can change these extents if I want. And I do want them bigger. Because I like that kind of valley. Now, because I'm thinking of a valley. Now it's kind of plain. Okay, what's going on here? It's not very amazing yet. But don't worry. Now I'm going to disconnect this. We're going to add the terrace later. We may neglect this. We may never use it. I'm not sure yet. Let's scoot this over. We can do that by right-clicking our mouse and dragging the actual screen, which I kind of find handy. I like to zoom out a little bit too. Give myself a lot of space. Just picture all this free space and just kind of be ambitious to fill it up. So, okay. What are we going to do here? Well, let's just... I want to tweak the height. I want the low areas to be lower and the high areas to be higher. And I want also, here's water level. Let's show the water level. Obviously we can't see it. Let's go to layout view. Alright. Let's change the level. So we're just about to start working with the water. I've got these kind of islands. Land of many lakes. Okay. Then I can kind of just create a little lake in here somewhere. This is going to be cool because then we don't need a bunch of distant terrain. We can add just a little bit of distant terrain because the backs of these peaks will sort of give our camera protection. So, alright. We got that. Now I really do want to okay, this is what I've used to tweak the various elevations. Now, we go into 3D view and I can open the clamp and I can play with the settings. And okay. Okay. Click. Let's try that. Okay. Expand. That's what we want. Yeah. Expand that. Expand this. Yep. That's what we're going for. Let's do it a little lower because you know what? When it erodes, it's going to fill up these valleys and create flat areas. Okay. Let's attempt this. See what happens. Okay. And let's just visualize this. We have this valley. Yeah. It's gonna be pretty. Okay. Now. Now we kind of got a basic idea. I may still use the layout generator at some point. I'm like, you know what? I need a little hill there. I need a little thing there. We're gonna be able to possibly work that in, just in case. I'm gonna stick a combine in there so I can think about it later. Okay. Now let's have the terrace. Let's see what happens when we do that. Not pretty nifty, but terraces are too big. You know what I'm saying? So, open up terrace. Unfortunately, the order in which you plop stuff in on your, the order in which you put down a node is the order in which these appear in here, so they might get out of order. So you're going to have to kind of focus a little bit about which is where. I mean, sometimes you work in a really linear fashion. You don't remove things, you don't add new things, and it's all in order, but that doesn't usually happen. Typically, I end up going, no, I don't like that, and I go back and change it, and then all these are just kind of out of sequence. So you kind of got to have a bit of a memory about that. Simple. Ugh. Smooth. Too sharp. Because when we add erosion, it will become less sharp. So we want sort of scoot them closer together. Let's make it a little further apart. I don't know, make some more steep. Terrace. This is about like how many terraces we can for what? Okay. Well, we want a lot of terraces. Let's add a bunch of terraces. Cool. 24 terraces? Let's do 29 terraces. And then let's make the shape kind of What is my neighbor doing? He is just a thumper. He does that. Particularly in the night hours. I don't get it. Okay, let's build this. Okay. Whoa. But you know what? It's crazy looking, but you gotta trust me. That is gonna look cool later on. Okay, next. Let's. I need to build it again. Alright. Do you know what? There's something else I want to do. But can I do this? I can't remember. I think I can. I'm gonna go and just add a purling noise. Okay, that's our purling noise. This is the shape of it right now, but I'm going to make it a little less intense. Make it bigger, smoother. And see, I can make it hills, makes it tighter. Mountains makes it larger. It basically increases the scale. And I'm going to make it kind of bigger. So what I'm just trying to do is create a slope. Actually, let's make it a little more irregular. Let's see what I'm doing in a little bit. Okay, let's try that. Let's just try that for the sake of drama. Okay. So this takes a little troubleshooting. You have to kind of guess what you need to do. I think I can do this. Yep. And this is where our combiner comes in. Because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to combine something. There's our purling noise. There's our clamp, or our, it's our original. That's our purling noise, and that's our combination. Now it's a little bit, you can see, it's like what? It's flattened everything out. So that's okay. Because what we can do is we can change it. We can make it add. We can make it subtract. We can make it multiply. We can make it power. Root. Detail. Play with strength, see what it's doing. Yes. Seems good. Let's flatten out those peaks, yeah. Kind of neat. How pointy do we want them? Do we want to really point? But what we're going to see, if I did this right, you'll see why I did all this. What was the method to my madness? It didn't work. Okay. Well, see, what I'm trying to do is get these terraces to slope, but that's because it's after the combiner. I see. I know what happened. Play some leapfrog. Here we go. The combiner has to come after the terrace. Yes. This is what must happen. I think. I'm an optimist, can you tell? Alright. I think that happened. It did. It happened a little bit. It's jaggier on the horizontal plane. No. Because that's sort of realistic, right? it's not supposed to be perfectly straight. And that's cool. See how it slopes up? Now, do I want to do more? Do I want to not do more? I don't know. I think it's slopey enough. Yeah. It looks kind of like a saggy pancake over there. Just kind of hanging over the other pancakes. Yeah. It's kind of, you know. Alright. Now, next part. We could just slap on some erosion, but you know, we will get to that. Is this too much water? Not enough water? It is a pretty cool looking thing. Now this is why my video is going to be long, because I just have to think a lot about what I'm doing, and if it feels right. Let's see, the problem is we're not going to have a whole lot of real estate if I don't. Okay. Yes, I have decided what I'm going to do next. See how long it takes me to figure out something pretty simple. We have coast erosion. Should I do a regular erosion before I do coast erosion? I think yes. I am going to have to do coast, and that should hopefully extend the edges here. Okay, so I had to just take a little break to think and experiment because I got a couple of ideas and I got sidetracked. So you can see I've just laid out here my future plans. I'm going to eventually do erosion, coast erosion, and then another smaller, weaker erosion to sort of just tie these together. So what I did was I went back to my clamp and I lowered the water elevation and I pushed my valleys a little lower because I wanted these mountains to be a little higher, just a little bit, without being too imposing. But I know that once I do coast erosion, I do all these other things, these valleys may fill with sediment, they may become really sloped. I'm just wanting a nice, a little more of a flat and low area in here because I don't want the peaks to get smaller. I don't want the basins to fill up. So I would like to preserve some of this pockmarked look. I really do enjoy that. And if I got really nitty-gritty crazy, I could try to mask off and protect some of the texture in these valleys and then erode the peaks only, or the mid zones, but I'm really not going to do that right now. I'm just going to focus on kind of the whole thing, and if I need to make little tweaks, I can do that by hand or in Photoshop or whatnot. So, pardon me. Let's see. What next? Let's get on with the erosion. Let's just see what happens. Let's unlock our preview. Okay. I'll lock our preview on the erosion. And we go up to 3D. Oh, we can see something happened already. Let's just see what their default erosion looks like. Erosion takes a while. It looks like it's going pretty quick. As I start building while the erosion is happening and I do other things like snow, it's going to become taxing. I have to add snow before I had the last erosion. Anyway, I'll speed things up during future builds, or just pause my video. Okay, there we go. Okay. Yeah, it just wasn't. Well, it's cool. Just, it didn't do much, did it? But you know, I kind of like it. it keeps the character of the rock. You know, if I add a lot of snow, I can get a sharp transition of softer ground and some really sharp rock, and then I can add the last erosion. Let's just see what it looks like set to good with terraces. Let's see what the default is. What are we on? Snow filter, hardly any rock hardness. Turn that up and just. Okay, let's just do what I want to do. Let's just do good with terraces. I typically like this one. Build again. Yeah, good with terraces is fun. It's fun. But you know, I use this style of erosion so much. And let's look at the settings. Let's see if we can emulate this and not quite do exactly this. Turn down the erosion consideration. Turn down the erosive power. Keep the rock hardness high. We've turned way down the sedimentary carry amount. Yeah. And let's do the rest and see what happens. Okay. Much cooler. Because we just didn't want that much disruption yet at an early stage of erosion, so this is good. Okay, now my plan is to add snow before I add a coast. So do snow. So kind of just fill up the gaps a little bit. Build. Alright. Let's just see we have this erosion. Erosion. Alright, let's just build it. See what happens. Okay, this is what snow did. And I like it. It's given us a little more realistic, some cool levels. Now we've got places where we can kind of connect, get up on the next tier of these steps. It's still a little intense. We're still working on it. It's still a work in progress. But it's getting there. Cool. Okay. What next? Gotta keep moving. Let's see. Alright. Next thing to do to be we do the coast erosion now. Yeah, we could do that then. Now, we need to have checked use global water level. Then we want a little less intense transition power, perhaps? Smoothing amount. High smoothing amount. That's like underwater smoothing. Each sides. Smooth. So smooth. Huh, Cliffs actually extends it further back. So let's just do that. And temperature power all the way down. How big should each of them? Oh, that's good. Yeah. Alright. See what happens. That was pretty quick. No, it's not. Okay, that's done, and this is what the coast looks like. Pretty interesting. You see kind of a sharp little cutout where this coastline, that'll be handled by erosion. So I'm not too concerned. Pretty into the lake, so I mean, I imagine like brackish pools. These would be freshwater pools, if this is saltwater, in fact. Which it should be, because in every sim world we kind of want salt and freshwater fish and all that. That would just be cool. Okay. Now about the next thing. This is going to be a weird looking world. I'm going to say, it's one of the wackiest I've made, but I wanted to make a fantasy world with a lot of forest. These rocks are going to be kind of speaking for the world more. Still put neat little clumps of forest down in these. That'd be neat. But then there's not a lot of place for horses and other animals to live, but I guess that's just not the kind of world it's going to be. I could try to make some goat-like horses and create some kind of a mountain climbing equid species. That would be fun. Okay. So yeah, this is all part of the world creation process. Going with it, sticking with inspiration when you need to, tossing out ideas when you kind of need to. You just gotta kind of let the world make itself a little bit. Okay. But still kind of holding on to my idea. This is definitely a fantasy world. I'm gonna go for some really cool, dramatic terrain paints. This is just gonna be a different kind of world. Something I'm thinking ghostly and alien. So kind of a spirit world kind of thing. Alright. A lot of fog. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Okay. More erosion. We are not quite done, by the way. It looks like we are, but we're not. I'm probably going to be doing this for another hour. I don't know. Okay. Well, let's just look at it. Okay. Okay. And let's look back one. We had our we're on coast erosion. That's what it looked like before. This is what it looked like after. It's not quite there. It's tying it together a little bit, but it's not quite there. Kind of fun. I like this edge thing. I hope it kind of happens again. I do like a intriguing, dramatic coastline. This place isn't going to have like a lot of sand, I imagine. Maybe in here. Right here mostly, and then not so much. But it's an interesting world with a lot of green. right up to the water's edge. And, okay, let's tweak this thing. Take a look at that. Channeled erosion. Doesn't seem a whole lot different, but it does look a little more dramatic. Still too much sediment. I think I have a plan of how I want it to look. We'll do lots of gardens. Better, but not perfect, but an improvement. I mean, if we get in close, so we imagine not to leave it. We did build it. See what we can do. This will show us kind of more of the full detail. And for some reason in The Sims, it's not that choppy. I don't know why it's kind of like that in Troubleshooting, but yeah, I think we can work with this. It did turn out a little more rocky and mountainous than I was originally thinking, but at the same time, I really like it. I don't want to lose the drama. So I'll think about this. I think we've pretty much got something to. Okay, so I tried to wrap up my video and then went back into World Machine, stared at this, and thought, I just don't have enough room. My Sims don't have enough real estate. It's just too stifling. It was a really cool world when it was rocky and stuff, but it might have been more of a world for like mermaids or something, because it had a lot of water, and I didn't plan on using the water that much, possibly. I would like to have mermaids in this world, but I think the thing I'm going to do is, I do want forests. That's what I'm inspired to do, so I'm going to stick with my inspiration right now. And I did really get something cool out of it. And all I did, you can see it looks very different from what I had before, but I really didn't do too much. I increased the range of the clamp slightly. I went to coast erosion, and I increased the size of the coast, and I also increased the transition power, so it just cuts off very sharply. So I didn't have this big bowl, which everything seemed too sloped for me. It was too horizontal. I wanted some more flat land, so I increased the transition power. This little camera, by the way, I didn't really talk about that before, but it's a full detail snapshot, so it really shows the full scope of. Anyhow, what was I saying? I don't remember. Yeah, I didn't do a whole lot, and it did get a very we did experience dramatic change. And this is more of what I wanted. I wanted some of these little tall peak type things. This really turned into the theme I was seeing in my head before we started this whole process. So that's great. And I like how some of these rocks are almost sloping vertical. The increasing of the shore size has sort of sucked in some of these edges and created some more really interesting terrain. So I think we're about done with this, definitely. I'm ready to see this and create a world now. So we're going to go over there after we export some files. So, okay, let's work on that right now. I'm going to go to my output, and we're going to just do a bunch of hide outputs. Like we're going to do a whole bunch of these. I should just have laid down a bunch of that. Let's just do that. 2, 3. I know we need one for water and sand, coastline. Will be nice to have snow. We're not going to do the other erosion. Here we will. I don't think so. Because we've done a lot. And I just... Let's just do it. Let's just have it and see what it looks like. Okay. We'll do a flow map of this. We'll do the depth mask for the snow. We will do a water map and a beach map. See how these nodes really know what you want out of them? These are the little connectors that say what type of output it is. This is an input side, this is an output side. These are mask inputs. For the most part, I haven't used those. Now, this we're going to want all of these. Erosion has some cool stuff. A primary output is going to create a height map, which you can see over there yet. This, that again, is our flow map. So that's going to show where all the erosion's flowing. The where map is going to show where things are wearing from. The negative zones, and then where stuff is going to settle is the deposition. So now I've created this strange little creature and that's about that. We just want to designate our destination. Use absolute path. We want a PNG. And we'll set it, and then we get to name it when we're setting it as well. So we'll call this, which one is it? Heightmap. I was calling this world mixed because I was coming up with a story about a world where people kind of go in a sort of dream state. It's like Fantasia, but it's kind of combined with dreaming. I don't know. I was just trying to explain all the weird paranormal stuff that goes on in The Sims. And all the magical stuff. And I just looked up some mythology and found this goddess of dreams or something. I can't remember the lore now, but that's how I kind of came up with this name. So, okay. Heightmap. That's really it, I think. Okay. And then these are yellow because they're not built. Once I hit build, it will all be green. Send. This is going to be the flow. Flow 2. Yeah, gotta do the name. So we'll just do that. I'll just continue and I'll just pause this. Okay, now that all these files are named and their export to location has been set, I think we're ready to go. The reason that you want to make sure to put the name of your project, or even just the working name of your world in the title, is because later on you might want to find that height map or one of those maps, and you could be doing a search on your computer and you'll want to have the name of that world project so you can find that stuff quicker. Otherwise you're going to have to go through so many multiple erosions or flow maps that all have the same name, because they will accumulate on your computer if you like to keep those files. And I do. I'm weird that way. I like to just keep working on projects. So okay, let's look at these. This is what the maps kind of look like when they're unrendered. Let's render it. See what happens. Cool. And then of course this to see the full. Oh, it doesn't know that it's 2D. That's fine. Okay. Wow. It's a really busy, hairy world. Let's look at the first one. The first erosion. Because... oh, was that the one I was on? Okay. Well, that makes sense then. Let's look at this one. That's a little better. Still, this world's gonna have... gonna have a lot of rock. Definitely will. Not that I wasn't expecting that. Don't know why I wasn't expecting that. Okay. Alright. Enough dallying. Let's export our world now. So file, export terrain files, and you can see that they're all ready. These outputs represent all of these little red nodes, and we will export them all. And they should go to their designated folder. And then I guess we'll get the height map into world, or create a world just to show that the height map works, this process works, and then we'll leave off there. We won't bring any height maps or splat maps in yet. So let's save this. Okay, I'm trying this again. Every time I open Create a World lately, it seems to create the sound of a demonic ghost sheep. I don't know why. So let's just hope it worked this time, as we test out our height map. Turned out really beautiful. And let's just leave it lush and make it 300. Let it spin for a sec. Awesome. And okay, so I had to cut off the sound because creepy sheep noise came back. Anyway, so you can see the steps in this imported world don't look as good as they did in World Machine, and I actually 100% expected this. So far, every time I have brought a world from World Machine into Create a World, I have had to fix the height map in Photoshop. So all is not lost. This is not what we're actually going to be working with. In the next video, I will show you how to fix the height map by increasing its range and bringing back the span of the entire thing. And I will also get to bringing in the splat maps and stuff, like I already said. Sorry if I'm getting repetitive. So yeah, I just want to say thank you for watching this far. I really appreciate it, and I hope you'll join me next time. Hope you enjoyed the video. Take care.